Hi everyone, in this session or episode of African Spirituality, I want to touch about a question that was sent to me a while ago, dealing with what's in a name and the power of a name, and people who are thinking about changing their name to adopt a different name. So as I mentioned in some of my past videos, for my tradition, your name is very important. In my tradition, we don't choose our name. Names are name of ancestors who are coming back. So you're coming back with that energy with you, because all of the names have a particular vibration to them. Vibration that comes because of the sound of the name, but also vibration that comes with the deeds that were accomplished by this person, how much that person was praised, how much that person was loved. And usually, of course, you get a name of somebody, your parents give you the name of an ancestor that's coming back, and that was loved and that is still being loved and honored by giving you the name, because you are now incarnating or reincarnated in this world. And this is also why when people do have a really negative life and are kind of repudiated, certain names are banned, because they are associated with such negativity around them that no one will call their child with that name. And sometimes even if some people would do call their child that name, the child will die of early childbirth. So there are names that are associated with that. So you can have, based on your legacy, your name may be forgotten on the books or maybe carried on, and you may have several individuals carrying that same name. And I think it's kind of similar to what was kind of narrated in the Egyptian context, where they were saying, at some point when somebody's being banned, they just erase his name from all of the tombs and all of the scriptures. So now, for those of you, I've made a little note not to forget, who are thinking about changing their name, I wanted to give you a few things to think about before you do so. The first thing is to take in consideration your how old you are. Basically, because if you've been carrying a particular name for until you're 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, that particular name is going to have a particular vibration that's attached to you. So it's going to be really hard, at least, to make the change with a new name. The new name is not going to really change everything, because you're still going to be carrying the vibration of the name that you were born with and that you've carried and used for 20 or 30 years. So it's not that it's going to prevent you from doing it, but it's just like you have to be aware that the energy that you've been carrying for 20, 30 years may still be lingering and may be requiring you to do, spiritual cleansing and more additional bath to kind of get rid of it a little bit faster so that it doesn't distract you. But that's one point to really take in consideration. How young are you when you're changing your name? It may also be possible that even though you are in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, or 50s, or 60s, you've never accepted the name that was given to you. Maybe you went by a nickname. So that means also that this particular name may not have so much of an impact on you, because it's not being spoken. Maybe if your friends and family don't call you by that name, then it may have less of an impact. If your government name is only used when you have to go to the DMV or things like that, it may already have less of an impact. And the question would be, if it doesn't have an impact on you, why would you want to change it? And I'm not saying this to do yes or no. This is just for you, help you in the process of thinking these questions through. Usually when I work with a client, I don't tell them what to do. I provide them certain tools, certain questions that they can use in their process, in the process of deciding what they will do. It's just important sometimes that people don't necessarily think about those different considerations I'm discussing right now. And if you even look on the web or on the internet, basically there's kind of a trend for a lot of people to change their names, but there isn't much of not a guideline, but of things to take in consideration or a reason behind doing them, besides that everybody's doing it, or besides that Kemet in Egypt is being reborn, and that a lot of people are diving into that energy to support them. Then the second consideration is, what does your current name or nickname or the name that you go by, what does it mean? what does it mean in terms, you can research this in terms of numerology, adding all the letters. You can find a lot of numerology videos or even on the internet that will explain to you what is numerology, how it works, and how to map out your name to get numbers and to see what those numbers mean, so that you have a clear idea of whether changing that name is going to be beneficial or not. And similarly, when you do that, you may want to do the same for the name that you would like to adopt, just to have an additional insight into where you might be diving into, what you might be diving into. And the same is for your nickname. Another consideration is whether your name, the name that you're currently carrying, was given to you after someone else. So was it given to you after your father, your grandfather, what have you? And I'm talking about first names and last names. And if it was, try to ascertain who was that person, what was this person's character, what are there any characteristic that this person had that you would like to emulate, or that you would like to keep, that you would like to get inspired from. And I think doing this process will oftentimes enable you to see some of maybe the reason why you want to change your name, or necessarily to see how you can still keep your current name and get energy from it and get inspired by what has been done and the reason why you actually ended up with this particular name. And this is kind of irrelevant from, I know some people will say, some of the Africans in the diaspora got slaves' name from the slave masters and all that stuff. Yes, yes, yes. But however, what I'm talking about, if you got the name, if your mother gave you the first name of her grandfather because she loved him dearly and because he took care of her, he raised her and all these different things, this is no longer attached to the slave master, and you need to look beyond that to see what was your grandfather character, the person who carried the name that you received it from. What did he do? Is there anything there that can empower you, that can inspire you? If you're still triggered by the whole slave master name and all that stuff, then by any means just jump into next consideration. But for those who can do this exercise, it's going to be beneficial for you, because it will also going to see you how much that person was loved, how much the person who gave you this name, what they were thinking, why they gave it to you, and the energy and the love that was put into that, into choosing the name, and the process that he took. Then is it the third? Yes, the third consideration is, what is the reasoning behind changing your name? What is the reason that you want to change your name? Is it because Kemet is cool now and everybody wants to be called Sekhmet or Isis or what have you? Is it because you think that by changing your name it's going to bring you closer to that particular culture? Is it because there's a particular name that's calling on to you? Is it because you started being called to change your name because of different events that happened to you, or different signs and omens that you've gotten that was leading you to take this decision and change that name, your name? So it is a reasoning for you to really understand and dive into yourself to make sure that this name change is something that comes from you, from within, and that is not something that is being pressured out of you to join a particular community because maybe a lot of your friends or you would like to join a group. That could be one of the reasons, but you need to have that clear in your mind. The fourth was the vibration of your current name with numerology. I already talked about that. And then the fifth is, what is your purpose? Do you know what is your purpose already? If you don't know, you may want to find out your purpose first before you change your name. Or maybe you can look into the name that you would like to change it to and see what's the history of that name, that person, what was the purpose of that person. oftentimes we will come with different name or in different situation to acquire different skills. So it is possible that you've already kind of grown out of the name that you had because you acquired all the skills attached to that name, and now you are going to dive into a different name because you want to acquire different skills, or your purpose has revealed to you a different path to take. I have to say, if you have several names, like first names, middle names, and last names. For myself, I have numerous first names and middle names. So for me, it's a little bit different because I have all of those names. I don't need to change my first names because my last name is my given ancestor's name. But for my first name, all of those first names have different energy to them, and so when I need to be more in tune with certain energy, I can just tap into that, and it reflects in my life because I see in certain aspect that name pops out more. There are names that I don't use as much. There are names that I carry and I use or much more vibrating with everything else, you know, that are like 95% of everything that I do. And then the other names come to play have come to play in certain time in my life, but I've also come into play in certain situations. But mainly I have a predominant lane whose energy is really, really conducive to what I'm to my purpose, to my line of work as well. So that's a good thing to think about. Your purpose is the name going to serve to help you serve your purpose? In what way? So those are questions you need to think about as well. You should think about as well. And then the one other consideration is that, are you taking a well-known name? And if that's the case, we can all kind of figure out the reason why, because maybe this person was famous, accomplished a lot of things, was very successful, and this is also sometimes why we have certain first names that are very popular in terms of who they were being referenced to. But the other side of the coin is that with names that have a lot of success and power to them, also comes a lot of responsibility. If you take anybody who's been successful, they had a lot of challenges along the way. So it's just for you to have a kind of a heads up, because you know when you're taking that name, that great name, that the name of that individual, like if someone else will be wanted to be calling themselves Malcolm X, you know, yes, they may see into that name the power of having your voice being heard by a lot of people, by being admired, being in a leadership position, but at the same time they will have to weigh in the responsibility of carrying that leadership, and also the dangers of having a lot of people being envious around you and having to guard yourself and protect yourself. So you always have to balance both sides in saying, you know, what is the name that you want to take, what are the good characteristics, and what are the things that you need to watch out for and look out for in order to be successful with that name. Okay. Another thing that you can consider is, if you're researching that name, it would be to look around yourself to see if you have anyone with the particular name, first name or last name, that you are seeking to change to, and just to see what is their life like, what are their challenges, what are their energy. Being around them even more can also provide you additional information in terms of, is it really for you, is it really something that you will want to have. And that basically is the last point. So to end this small segment is just to say, when you're changing your name and you want to dive into a different energy, whether it is to have a magical name or to have, you know, a professional name, an artist name, you need to kind of define the purpose of that name, where you want that energy to go, and the reason why you're doing it. Some people are very well integrated into one piece, where they want to do everything with the same name. Some others will have different name for different context, or different purpose, or different activities, or different things that they're doing. Other people will have different name, or use different name or different time in their lives. So it's all about you designing your own path and thinking it through so that it actually serves you, so that you're not wasting time being distracted or following certain trends. If a trend is appealing to you, just dive into deeper in saying the why, the reason why, and just always ensure that it is something that's going to serve your purpose, so that there's less friction, and also be open that living the life as the best person that you can be is going to entail challenges. You're never going to know what kind of challenges are going to come your way. But one thing you can know for sure is that you will always have all of the tools you need to overcome any of such challenges. You came here, down here, with all of the tools that you need for whatever challenges is going to come your way. And the last caveat I'll say is that those of us that have the greatest challenges are really the strongest among us, because only the size of the challenge is based on the size of what the individual can actually take. So I just wanted to give you that out there. And if you are in the path of looking for a new name, I wish you well, and I hope if you do have different names or use different names, you can put down below the reason why. Do you use a different magical names? Do you use a different name at work? Obviously, I'm using a pseudo on this channel, but I also have different other names. And I think there will be a time where we'll dive a little bit deeper. I'm not sure if I will keep this channel name throughout my YouTube time, but it is definitely that there are other names that are calling me, and other things that may come up in the future. So let me know that if you have a magical name, if you're thinking about changing your name, or if you just adore and love the name you currently have. So thank you for watching, and please do subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and I'll see you in the next video.